This program was brought to you by Koller Institute of Venture at Tel Aviv University.
Well, first of all, it's a real pleasure and honor to be here and to be speaking in front of you in really, I think, a great moment where this institute is being launched. I think it's great for Israel, for Israel Venture, and I hope we'll be able to, in general, that Israel will be able to become a much stronger center of excellence in technology management. I think we are great in engineering, but we're not as admired worldwide in technology management specifically, so that's definitely a direction for you guys to take. The topic of this speech that I prepared is combining the changing nature of venture capital with what is happening in the technology world. And on that front, I would say that there are good news and bad news for venture capital. I think that the good news is that in venture capital, or for venture capital, or technology investment in general, we are facing a fantastic opportunity. So the coming years are going to be very, very good for those who invest wisely in technology. And there are two reasons for that. The first reason is that there is huge disruption going on in the technology world. And actually, most of my time I will spend explaining that disruption. And we as a venture capitalist, the only thing we hate is stability. We like disruption. So that is one part of the opportunity on the good side. The other part of the opportunity stems from the size of the markets that technology is addressing, which is growing and is bigger than ever. The reach of technology these days is far bigger than it was 10 years ago, and it's just growing very fast because of mobile devices and so on and so forth. So this is on the good side. On the not so good side, or on the challenging side, I think that the nature of the business of venture capital and the way for us to do venture capital is changing dramatically. And that is a challenge. It's a big challenge, and most of what I will say today is directed to that front. I've been in venture capital almost 15 years, and I think that the change that we've seen in the last 5 years, or even in the last 3 years, is way more dramatic than in the years before. And venture capital is today is very different than what it was 5 years ago. Not 20 years ago, not 10 years ago, just 5 years ago. And we as venture capitalists, we have to change on multiple dimensions. We have to change in the way we organize, in the way we invest, in the pace we invest, in the way we manage our portfolios, and in the way we exit our portfolio companies, on all of those dimensions. And I would like to reach at the end of this what I think are the adjustments that we have to make. But I want to take you through I don't want to go there directly. I want to take you through a short ride and do it in 3 steps. Number one is to broadly paint the dramatic changes that are happening in the technology world. Just to give you an order of magnitude of what we are talking about in terms of how big are those changes. Then I want to give you actual 2 case studies, very short, of what I call new breed of companies that are being created And I'm going to talk from first-hand experience. And I think that would give a very clear view on some things that may sound a bit theoretical. And then at the third part of this speech, I will specifically relate to what we have been doing in venture before and how we have to change and do it differently. So in terms of technology change, I've said already that the amount and magnitude of change in technology these days is much bigger than anything we've seen in the last 20 years. And there are five areas where dramatic change is happening. The first area is in the area of processors. I'll talk a little bit in more details on each one. The fundamental unit of processing, and that is changing in a way that is changing the whole, what we call the whole software stack of technology. The second area is what we call infrastructure as a service. I'll talk about that, I'll elaborate on that. The third area is what we call software as a service. The fourth area is what we call open source software. And the fifth area is big data. Now, maybe it sounds a little scary for someone who's not that close to technology, but I'll try to explain what are the specific, what I mean specifically, and what is really happening in each of these domains, and why the change is so big. So, you know, in the area of processors, what is happening is that we used to invest a lot in semiconductors, in fabless semiconductors company. And what we have seen in the last few years is drastic decline in the number of opportunities in that area. And Israel was actually a big player in that area of fabless semiconductor companies. Now, I can tell you that in the last year, I've seen maybe 600 opportunities to invest. Maybe 5 of them were in semiconductors. And there were some initiatives, including government initiatives, to try to encourage the semiconductor business in Israel. But what is really happening is a fundamental change that we don't need anymore the same amount of custom-made semiconductors as we needed before. The reason is that our general purpose processors, are becoming so strong because of multi-threading and multi-coring and so on, that we don't need any more custom semiconductor companies. So not only in Israel, but also in the United States, you will see very little investment in custom semiconductors. Now, where is that going? It's going to a completely different direction, where all the fundamental processors are custom-made and are general purpose, and the whole shift is towards software versus hardware. And that change is in the most basic layer of technology. And that is changing the whole stack, as I said before, of communication stack. And it's changing completely the terrain of technology in areas of IT and communication. So that is change number one. Now, change number two, or the other vector, is what I call infrastructure as a service. It's not less dramatic than the change that we've seen in processors. What is really happening is that most of the IT industry today is around selling boxes, selling and shipping boxes of technology. By the way, most of it with custom semiconductors inside that. Well, we have seen in the last 2 years the beginning of the end of that phenomenon. I'm saying something that is very blunt. It will take probably a decade. But at the end of that decade, no more boxes will be shipped. Because infrastructure is going to be served as a service. Companies are not going to buy boxes anymore. They're going to buy all their IT needs based on a service. That is phenomenally dramatic. Now, how is that happening? It's happening, well, you probably heard the term cloud, okay? The cloud started about 10 years ago with something very specific, the virtualization or turning compute power into service. Turning compute power into service was the first phase of turning infrastructure to service. But now, in the last 2-3 years, there is a new terminology which is called public cloud. And that is, it's tricky because it sounds like a direct continuation of what we had before, but it's not. When people are talking about public cloud, what they're telling you is, now, not only, we're going to serve you not just the compute as a service, but all the other boxes, all the other services, all the other components of IT, we're going to serve you as a service based on software. So public cloud, which is basically infrastructure as a service, is the new name of turning all those boxes into services based on software. And that is obviously just started. But that's completely changing the whole IT world. So that's the second change. The third dramatic change in the technology world is software as a service. Not infrastructure as a service, but software as a service. Actually, it's a bit older than infrastructure as a service. It's about 5 years old. And what is that? Well, it's instead of selling software to enterprise, we're giving them the same functionality through a service business model. So giving it as a service business model is not such a big change compared to selling them software. It sounds like more a pricing issue, all right? Instead of pricing it one way, it's pricing it another way. But the big change about software as a service is that the whole sales business model, the way we sell it, is completely different. We don't, in software as a service, we don't send salespeople anymore to the clients. Now we have new business models. We call them no-touch, low-touch sales. What does that mean? That means that we market those services on the internet. We sell them with a no-touch business model. You know, you don't even talk to your customer. And with the low-touch business model, you have someone sitting in Tel Aviv selling the software anywhere else in the world, not making a single travel. And that is a dramatic change that is, in my mind, the most important thing about software as a service. And that is what is cutting most of the cost out of the older business models. The fourth big change and dramatic change is open source. What is open source? Open source is community-based software development. Again, a very dramatic change in the world of technology. And the drama is about the fact that, first of all, it's really competitively better than proprietary software because it draws on the best talents for software development on a global scale. So you have people sitting in Helsinki, and in San Francisco and Tel Aviv, contributing to the same piece of code. And they are the most talented software developers. And that's why they beat the proprietary software. And we see more and more from that kind of technology. You probably heard, Linux by Red Hat, or another technology called Hadoop, which is basically a database. Most of the databases now, the new database, are open source. On that issue, I want to tell you a small anecdote about how disruptive is open source. I met a couple of weeks ago an Israeli entrepreneur in New York, who is a second-time entrepreneur. He started his first company in the year 2000, sold it in 2006. Now he has his second company. And he told me, in the year 2000, when I launched my service, before I had my first customer, I had to pay $250,000 to Oracle to buy a database. Today, I launched my service with zero cost for software for third party, because it's also open source. It's that dramatic. The last mega trend is big data. What is big data? Basically, our capabilities, humanity's capabilities to process data and to analyze it, are an order of magnitude better or bigger than anything else we've done before. And that is a dramatic change, because, first of all, the nature of data has changed. It's not anymore, in the past, those who created data were enterprise. Today, most of the data is coming out of the internet, and the nature of data is different. It's unstructured data. And our ability to process that data in real time or non-real time, but in huge quantities, is going to contribute in a huge way to humanity, and across different industries, from telecom through medicine. Just a few weeks ago, an Israeli company called Compugen signed a tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, contract with one of the big drug companies in the world, exactly in this domain of mega processing of data about genes for the purpose of drug development. And we're seeing big data initiative, big data innovation, big data analysis based on big data transforming many, many industries. And there is huge change and opportunity there. So just to summarize some of the implications of this huge technology transformation that we are seeing, we're seeing dramatic shift from hardware-based to software-based. Just to give you an indication, the cost of developing software in the last 5 years have dropped by 95%. So what cost us 5 years ago is costing us now 5. Due to open source, due to the cloud and so on. The business model of selling and marketing software is changing completely. There are new business models, the no-touch and the low-touch. Due to the infrastructure as a service, we can scale new businesses in the technology world overnight. This morning, we were talking about the location of startups. And here in Israel, everyone is aware about the fact that there is a move of startups into Tel Aviv. And I said this morning that 5 years ago, they need laboratories, they needed to put rooms for servers and so on. That is all gone. And they can scale overnight. If you are a successful startup, you can scale and serve millions of customers overnight because of the cloud. So that is cutting the cost of scalability by an order of magnitude. And at the same time, our reach of the technology and new media, the software and new media companies is getting much further. We can reach global markets overnight. So you can see startups selling, 6 months old startups selling everywhere on the globe, basically. We have a true global reach very early in the life of the company. And the last implication, and that is the whole idea of how you develop, how do you develop products, has changed dramatically. 5 years ago, we used to, a product release cycle was usually a year. It took you a year between one software release to another software release. Today, we have weekly releases. Every week, we release a new version of the product. We throw it to the market, and we test it immediately with the customers. Our customers, they provide us the quality assurance. They do the QA for us, okay? So from a release every year, in 5 years, we've gone to a release every week. Just to give an indication of an order of magnitude of change. So that is my overview of how dramatic is technology changing. And I want to give you, as I promised, 2 case studies of companies. The first company is Company T. It's a new media company. They raised $300,000 2 years ago. They turned profitable after 12 months. They did not need any additional financing to finance growth. They reached 20 million customers, monthly customers, in that period of 2 years. So it's, you know, can you imagine 10 years ago, a company from Israel in a consumer space reaching 20 million users in 2 years? They reached a revenue run rate of $20 million a year, 24 months. And now they're doing now 2 years after, now they're doing their growth equity, their growth financing. You know why? Because they're very profitable. They want to make acquisitions. All right. The other company, I call it Company A, is a SaaS company, is a software as a service company. It's 1 year old. They've raised $500,000 as a seed financing. They also turned profitable just now. 2 months ago, they turned profitable. They grow 30 to 50% month over month. They sell globally. They have Chinese customers, Russian customers, from wherever. And now they're raising their expansion financing. They have a proven, 12 months old, they have a proven business model. They have a working product. That's the new breed of technology companies. So now I want to talk about venture. Obviously, when everything around you is changing, you have to think that, you know, you have to check yourself a little bit to check if you're all right, right? So 5 years ago, we used the following jargon. We used to talk about pre-seed financing, or we gave a few $100,000 to nice guys and told them, let's spend 18 months and come with a proof of concept. And then we had a round A or a seed financing where we told them, all right, I'll give you a couple of millions, and now you will do a full product. So we could lay back for 3 years before we reached the market. It was heaven. And then when they had a product and you have 3 customers, we did a round B with a few more millions, and then a later round, and the whole story, lasted 6 years before you knew if you lost your money or you made some money. All that jargon is irrelevant. It's gone. What we have now is we have stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1, we give them $1 million, or up to $1 million, to do a product and test it and validate that we have a market. Stage 2, we have expansion capital. We have to put a lot of money to make it a global success story. It's a different world. So we have to adopt. It's a big change, and it's not an easy change, because most VCs are organized in a way they can't do this kind of change. We have to operate differently. We have to be much faster. We need dramatic understanding of the domains that we invest in. We need to be able to support our companies in a different way. And we need portfolio management that is much more aggressive than what we had before. So with that, I think I've said enough, and I think that research about venture capital is highly welcome in this changing environment. Thank you very much.
This program was brought to you by Koller Institute of Venture at Tel Aviv University.